Theo Von, I love that guy. It's easy to see the human in him than many other comedians. One of the things that makes him funny is the fact that he's willing to say, it seems like, anything and everything that comes to his mind, which ends up being basically a mix of a lot of funny, out of this world things. Like, how the fuck did you get to that idea? How the fuck did you find that perspective? But also he says a lot of stupid things. He would not be able to say funny things if he wasn't willing to look stupid. Yeah, I find that very interesting because you can also relate to that. You can also relate that to, not only being funny, but also being great at something. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in on Stories and Status. As usual, I have a few things that I've noted down that I wanted to share with you because I found them interesting or have been useful in my life. And this week I have 3 things. By the way, a huge percentage of the people who watch the podcast have not subscribed, and it's basically the best way to support the podcast, to help me grow the podcast to a point where I can have people that I am going to find interesting and you are going to find interesting. And if you're part of people who haven't subscribed and love what I share, please subscribe. Let's just get into it. Number 1, I find imperfections in people really attractive. This might come off a little bit weird because imperfections are not things that you're supposed to be attracted to. And what I mean by that, I find them attractive, for me, is that when I catch somebody being something that I didn't think they were, I find that attractive or interesting, right? When you get to see somebody's side that you haven't seen before, it's really cool. I love finding out something about someone that makes them normal, that makes them human, right? When you meet friends, when you meet people for the first time, everybody, including myself, are putting on, an image of what I want people to perceive me as. Like, there's nobody who is showing up as themselves when they meet people for the first time. Everybody is trying to be something that is socially accepted. And that can differ depending on, who you are, who those people are, right? If these people are religious people, you're probably not going to be cussing. You're probably not going to be doing dirty jokes that you would do with, a group of guys that you go to get a beer with. You show up at work differently than you show up with your girlfriend or than you show up with your mom. So it's completely normal, and I understand that, you sometimes have to do that to be able to navigate different social situations. I don't find that to be fake. I don't find that to be acting. I think everybody has different sides to themselves, including myself, and accepting that not as a bad thing, but as a good thing is what I mean by I find imperfections in people really attractive, because when we meet for the first time and you have put on a show, you have put on a face that you wanted me to see, or showed me that you are a confident, really calm, collected person. And then in a conversation, I get like some tiny sign that shows me who you really are, that you too can lie, you too can feel insecure about something, about how you look, or about I'm trying not to give examples, but I remember exactly when I wrote this down. It was a friend of mine. We were having a conversation about a comedian. We're talking about a special that he just put out. For some reason, it seemed like this person was trying to tell me that they've seen the specific special that we're talking about when they hadn't seen it. And I don't really know why. That made me like that person a little bit more. And though they were sort of, it came across as if they were pretending, because it made me see the human side of them. I hadn't really seen that person try to lie or try to pretend to be or to know about something that they didn't know. Maybe the reason why I find that attractive, or the reason why I find that okay, or the reason why that made me want to even like be more friends with that person, is because then it's okay that I am also flawed in different ways that I'm flawed, right? I have lied before. I have pretended to know things that I don't know. I have done a lot of different things that I'm not proud to have done, and I'm always working on my imperfections. I'm not saying, by saying this, I'm not saying that you should default to being imperfect and that being imperfect is something that you should be proud of. I'm saying that everybody is imperfect, and when I see other people, when I see imperfections in other people that I see in myself, I feel attracted to them, because then it feels like it's okay for me to be who I am and to come to relate to that person, or to present a version of myself that that person hadn't seen, because they too can relate to it in a way. Yeah, I'm not saying that to say that you should brag about your freaking imperfections. It's not cool. It's not something that you should be proud of. If you have different imperfections, you should always try to improve. I'm always trying to improve in different areas of my life. But I know that regardless of how much I'm going to try to improve, I'm always going to have something wrong with me. I'm going to always have something that is not figured out. That's just the reality of things. I'm never going to be perfect. And I think realizing and knowing that every other person is also not perfect, and seeing tiny signs in a person that you thought was maybe better than you, better as in like they're like good people in a way that you are not. And then you find stuff that show you a side of them that is just very flawed and human and dirty and messy. I just think that is really cool. And I find that not a turn off, but an attractive thing. That also, like, they can, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. The second thing that I wrote down is shoot. SOSHOOT. Shoot. And I got this idea from comedians. I've already referenced comedians in this episode, so you already know that I love comedy. I'm a big fan of comedy. And Andrew Schulz is one of the comedians that I really like. He was explaining why it's not okay to censor comedians. Censor meaning like, determine what they can and cannot talk about or make jokes about. And the reason why he said that is because for a comedian to make funny jokes, they have to make a lot of unfunny jokes. They have to always be shooting. They have to always be trying to be funny. It's by trying to be funny. It's by trying to find a perspective on something that could potentially be funny that they end up developing the skill of being funny. Yes, being funny is a skill. Some people are born funny, right? They can be really quick on their toes and find funny things in different things that other people like myself maybe wouldn't be. But it's definitely something that you can work on. It's something that I'm now starting to deliberately try to improve on. And I have gotten better at finding funny things in different things and making jokes that are funny, not as funny as I would want them to be, but as are funnier than maybe what I would have done in the past. But that's not the point. The point is, for you to be funny, you have to take shots. You have to be able to constantly be trying to be funny. The comedian who does this the best, I think, is Theo Von. Theo Von, I love that guy. Not only because of how funny he is, but because of how open and human and fraud, speaking of what we were speaking about earlier, that he is. You can just find, it's easy to see the human in him than many other comedians. And one of the things that makes him funny is the fact that he's willing to say, it seems like, anything and everything that comes to his mind, which ends up being basically a mix of a lot of funny and out of this world things. Like, how the fuck did you get to that idea? How the fuck did you find that perspective? But also he says a lot of stupid things. And he would not be able to say funny things as funny as he says if he wasn't willing to look stupid, to say stupid shit, and to show up, to make references that wouldn't make sense, or point out things sometimes that are very, very not funny. I find that very interesting because you can also relate to that. You can also relate that to, not only being funny, but also being great at something, right? If you pick speaking on camera as an example, as a skill that you want to get good at, you cannot be good at speaking on camera if you're not willing to look stupid. If you're not willing to say things that makes you look corny, things that make you not, you have to be comfortable looking stupid. You have to be comfortable doing it for a very, very long time and it sucking every single moment. I've done this many, many times. I've started recording videos about 3 years ago. I still have a hard time expressing myself. It has gone so much better, but it's still not easy. But the fact that I did it for as long as I did it and stayed consistent every single week, I don't think there's ever been 2 weeks that passed without me making a video. It could be a short video, it could be a long video like a podcast like this, it could be a video for other stuff that I'm making. But for the last 3 years, there's never been 2 weeks that I didn't film a video. And it's because of me consistently doing that, consistently showing up, making the video, not caring how much good, or how good I'm going to look, or how smart I'm going to sound, that I have been able to not only show up on camera confidently, but also starting to share at least things that I'm really thinking that people are going to find useful. It's by doing that you can only develop that ability by sitting down and doing the fucking thing and shooting your shots. Same thing goes to writing. Like, you cannot get good at writing if you're not willing to sit down every week and write. And it sucks. Like, finding an idea to write every single day is very difficult. I have a newsletter that I write every single week, so I know what I'm talking about. I've been writing that for the last 2 months or 3 months, every single week. And it's difficult. Like, you're sending that to people who are spending time and attention to read the stuff that you're sending them. And being comfortable sending something and writing something that might not be as good as your taste is, or might not be as good as you would like it to be, but doing it anyway and sending it anyway, is how you get good, is how you get to pro level. It's two things. It's the consistency and how much are you willing to, three things actually. You have to be willing to look stupid. That's number one. Number two, you have to constantly shoot. Meaning, if it's joking, if you want to get good at making jokes, make jokes. If you want to get good at writing, write every single freaking day. If you want to get good at making videos, make videos. There's no shortcuts. Like, you cannot get good. Some things you can't just sit down and think and hope that things are going to get better and then get better. No, you have to sit down, do the work. You have to shoot. And the moment you stop shooting is the moment you stop getting better. But as long as you're willing to, as long as you're continuing to shoot, as long as you're continuing to show up, you are going to get better, regardless of how terrible you start, right? I was horrible on camera. Yeah, my first video sucked, but it's gotten better. The third thing that I wanted to share with you is something that I heard on the Modern Wisdom podcast by Chris Williamson. He has a really great podcast if you're interested in learning about psychology, about different aspects of being a human being. I think he does a great job at exploring that, and yeah, you should check it out if you're as weirdly interested in human beings and understanding their mind and how they interact with other people, all kinds of things. It's really good. And he recently had Will Stoll, who is an author and wrote a book. I don't remember the title, but it's about storytelling and has a really interesting perspective on storytelling, because it doesn't only look at how do you tell a great story, but it also looks at what about the human mind that makes storytelling a really effective form of communications. And I found that very interesting because I'm so interested in storytelling. I want to learn, how do you tell a story that's so good that it gets people to care and take action if you want them to take action, if you want to use it for business, you want to get them to buy something. Like, how do you capitalize on the understanding of the human mind and, storytelling, which is a form of communications, and marry those two to communicate, my God, I can't speak, to communicate in a way that is effective. On the podcast, on the show, when he was on the show, Will Stoll was on the show, he shared something that I found really interesting, and I heard they had that anywhere. It's not that it's new, but I just haven't heard somebody put it in that way. And it's the idea that there's a physical world and a stories world. Stories world, a physical world, right? Me and you have a body, bones, and blood. And by eating, you stay healthy and you stay alive. If you didn't eat, you would die. And in the stories world, he basically makes an argument that people are made of ideas. It's just a collection of ideas. And it's those ideas that basically help you navigate the world. I find this idea so fascinating because, like I mentioned, I'm interested in understanding the mind and understanding how do you take advantage of that understanding to communicate effectively, but also not just communicate, to navigate the world in a useful and effective way. Because that's something that's so difficult for so many people, including myself. Like, I can be socially awkward. It has gotten better, but I have historically been a person who can be anxious, who can find it difficult to express myself depending on, who I'm around. And I have tried different ways to try to mitigate that, to try to work on that. Yeah, it's just difficult to navigate the world in its different complexities and stuff. The fact that the ideas that you have in your mind, the ideas that you have been exposed to, and the experiences that you have been exposed to, that it's those ideas that you base on, the mind bears on, to help you navigate the world is so interesting. And to make that concrete, basically, the reason why that is important is because the brain is always receiving a lot of information, right? You have different sensory organs, the eyes, the ears, the skin. You're constantly getting information in. And the number one role of the brain is to keep you safe. Is to help you navigate the world in a way that keeps you safe so that you can, end up getting laid, getting married and having kids, and them having kids and them having kids. That's the role of the brain. If we understand that that is the role of the brain, what it's trying to do is always trying to save energy so that it can do that in a sustainable way on a long-term horizon. Because it's trying to save energy and because it's trying to save you, it's basing on previous experiences to give you a story that you can use to navigate different situations, right? It could be social situations, or it could be, different kinds of things. Let's say you go on a date, right? The girl is pretty, she's happy, she's very welcoming. 15 minutes into the date, she changes the mood. She's not as nice as she was. Maybe she becomes a little bit sad. She visibly is not as happy and welcoming to you and stuff. How you navigate that situation is entirely dependent on your past experiences, your understanding of human beings, how you grew up. There's a lot of things that play into you making a decision of either being nice and trying to understand what that person, your girl, is going through, like why all of a sudden is she changing the mood, or be rude and maybe walk out on her, maybe mirror her energy and become sad as well. That understanding that is happening in the background, that how you navigate that situation is entirely dependent on your experiences, for me, makes trying to open up to different experiences and different ideas probably the most important thing that you can do. I have been the kind of person who, says they are going to only listen to hip hop music. And I've always said I only like basketball. Like, I'm not open to playing any other sport. Like, I'm the basketball kind of guy, and that made me feel like, it's cool or whatever. And I think that is probably the most foolish thing that I could have done, because by me limiting what kind of music I listen to, what kind of not football, what kind of sports I get involved in, who I get to have conversations with, who I get to have as friends, what kind of movies I watch. Like, by limiting the ideas that I let in and the experiences that I have, I'm basically not allowing my brain to have access to a breadth of information that would help my brain in some circumstances to make up a story that's going to be useful, because it interprets reality in a way that is close to being accurate. It's by allowing yourself to experience different things. It's by allowing yourself to listen to all kinds of music. It's by allowing yourself to experience different kinds of dishes, and trying to being open to having conversations with people who are from different cultures. Maybe you might not like that person, but they might have went through an experience that's going to help you go through an experience 5 years from now in a way that is useful and healthy and effective to you. I think that is a very, very important thing to do. It's one of the things that are going to keep coming up on the show, because I genuinely think that if I invest in doing that, if I invest my time in expanding of what my understanding of the world is, my reality, expanding my stories world, the quality of ideas that I have, books that I read, what I know about finance, what I know about business, what I know about relationships, what I know about, the pop culture, what I know about Mormon people, right? What I know about all kinds of things. Expanding that is not only going to make you cool, it's not only going to make you knowledgeable, it's not only going to make you interesting to talk to, because you're going to have different things to reference and stories to tell, but it's also the most important reason why you should do that is because it's going to help you navigate the world in a way that is useful, in a way that is effective. Like, if you don't know what is going on in AI today, you're probably not making career decisions that are going to help you be safe, as in, like, have a job in the future, or maybe have a thriving business in the future. If you don't know what is happening in crypto, you're probably not making good choices there. If you don't know what is happening in politics, you're probably not making choices. So it's always like opening yourself up to a breadth, a huge, a long, always, you should constantly, I shouldn't tell you what to do, but I should always be learning. I want to always be learning and expanding my experiences and saying yes to things that I wouldn't say yes to. Obviously, be careful, right? Like, some ideas are damaging and some things are not good for you. So you do need to, like, be a judge of what you let in and what you don't let in, depending on how, what your beliefs are and whatever. But my default these days anyway is to say yes to things. To say yes to people, to say yes to experiences, to say yes to a song, to say yes to a movie that I wouldn't maybe have watched 2 years ago, because it just forms your ideas world in a way that's going to come in to save you maybe down the line. Cool. That's it for this week. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.